Hi everyone, I'm Theresa V, and this is the place to be if you are a sensitive empath who wants to feel more alive and in your joy. So many times we isolate for our survival, or we feel alone, like no one fully understands us. For those reasons, I wanted to share with you some of my story. I want to just have a chat like you're right here with me, in the hopes that you'll recognize that you are not so alone, that you are not terminally unique, and that there is nothing wrong with you. There is nothing that is part of you that is not supposed to be there. My greatest hope for you is that you'll start to embrace more of who you are and walk this planet in more of your fullness. First, you may not be sure that you're a sensitive or an empath, but chances are if you're here, you are. Or maybe you have children who fit the mold. One of the biggest telltale signs is that people feel better when you're around. Without explanation, they seek you out to share their troubles and their pain, or just to be around you when they're upset. You may not even have to do anything. When they leave, they feel better, but you may feel heavy or mired in stuff or depressed or sad. It's like they bring you all of their stuff, they leave it with you, and then they take off. Many of us look at ourselves and beat ourselves up for that. Why am I so sensitive? Why do I take this stuff on? Why can't I hold my own in the midst of other people? What you may not realize is you carry a tremendous healing frequency. Even if this isn't something that's in your awareness, other people feel it subconsciously. They understand it. And when they need healing, physically, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually, they are attracted to your aura, to your energy field, to your personality, like moths to a flame. They know that they can be held in a frequency that will allow them to drop what is weighing them down, and that they'll feel better after they were around you. This may not even be people you know. You may be one of those lucky people who goes to a coffee shop or the supermarket and has random people walk up to you, share something deeply personal, and walk away. And you're left standing there wondering what just happened and holding all of their junk. And they skip away feeling refreshed, renewed, and restored. These are the signs that you're a sensitive and you're a healer. The first thing I want to say about my own story is that there's nothing special here. I believe that every single person can access their innate gifts, their connection with the divine, and can manifest it in a more realistic way with openness and with practice. The difference is how much we listen and how much we cultivate. As far back as I can remember, my gifts were open. They weren't always appreciated, but they were definitely open. My poor parents had to deal with a period of 3 full years where I would not sleep by myself. They had to stay in my bedroom with me until I fell asleep. And even then, very often I woke up in the middle of the night in terror. I remember describing the things that I was seeing in my bedroom. And I also remember their answer, your mind is playing tricks on you. Your eyes are playing tricks on you. But it doesn't feel that way when we can actually feel the presence of the other beings. We can experience them, see them, hear them. In order to make sense of the things I was seeing, my sensory perception turned them all into cartoon-like forms so that I wouldn't be so terrified and I could somehow cope with what I was experiencing. I would see and feel and hear things that other people didn't, that other people couldn't explain, and I saw how it scared others. There was no openness to talking about it and received the message that there was something wrong with me. My eyes were playing tricks on me. It was my fault. And so, like many of us do, in order to survive, we need to get our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual needs met. I needed to shut that down, close it up tight, so that I could get some sleep, so that my parents could be in better moods, and so that there wouldn't be so much strain in our daily routine. Everyone was sleep deprived. Everyone was upset. Everyone was confused. And this served no one. So I shut it down. It wasn't conscious. It's what children do for survival. I'm guessing that I'm not the only one here in this community who's done that. And this is something that we as sensitives and empaths very often do early in life, strictly so that we can survive and function in society in the way that we are learning is acceptable. There was lots of fear, and there was no one to guide me in this. I did come from a line of people on both sides with psychic and intuitive abilities who were connected to things beyond ourselves in various ways. However, there was a very religious structure around it. And so there was a lot of should, shouldn't, black, white, yes, no kind of energy. And so this is where a lot of the fear came from. People for a long time had denied their own gifts, except for one person who really embraced them. But for the most part, people had denied their gifts and their abilities, and they were afraid of their own. So of course, when there's a child manifesting these things, it's bringing up the fear within the adults of their own gifts, as well as the fear of you and who you are and what you can do. The funny thing is that even though these gifts and abilities were closed very tightly, really shut down, when something was completely necessary, when a message needed to be delivered, it still came through. There were times in my childhood where I would have a vision or experience something that was happening really far away, as if it were happening to me, and be able to describe it to somebody. One of those situations was where I saw somebody in the family dying of lung cancer, and it felt really imperative to convey the message to them that if they didn't stop the things that they were doing, they would get really sick. And that was my vocabulary because I was very young. It did not go well. At the time, children should be seen and not heard. Who are you to tell me what to do? I'm the adult here. It just went really badly. But even as that 7, 8, 9-year-old that I was, I felt good that the message had been delivered. I knew beyond the shadow of a doubt when something needed to be said and when it didn't necessarily have to be. The other thing that happened as a result of this, which I didn't realize until much later on, was that I became very anxious. I was a very anxious person all the way up through the time where I allowed my gifts to start being opened again. And I've heard this from other people who try to keep their gifts under wrap as well. This anxiety is created because you're not living as who you're here to be. You're shutting off pieces and parts of yourself. At the same time, you're seeking to live an authentic life. You're probably a spiritual seeker. So you're seeking that connection to all that truly is. And so that piece of you is yearning to open as you're keeping it tightly under wraps. And this push-pull energy, this vibration is so tightly wrapped up that your whole system is vibrating because all of this life, all of this incredible energy is trying to burst forth from you. It just wants to be seen. It wants to be part of the experience. It wants to be part of the world. And you're wrapping it up tighter and tighter and tighter until that moment where you can't keep it under wraps anymore. For me, this happened right around the time I started deeply exploring spirituality that was different than the religion I had been given as a child. Though I still loved all of that, there were other avenues that were asking to be explored in my life. There were things that led me there. And the one thing that I knew from the time I was a child all the way up, and this is the one place that intuition and psychic ability was acknowledged when I was a child, was always trust your gut. Always listen to your gut. I grew up never doubting my gut. So when there were messages that were coming to me, even when it was to take actions that made absolutely no sense, if my gut told me that it was right, I would follow that. I would never ever doubt my gut feeling. This really enabled me to trust my guidance. While I wasn't diving deep into it, I was building that relationship with my guidance, with my guides, with my angels, with my higher self. And so as I began to explore spirituality and connection with the divine in a way that felt more all-encompassing and more organic to me, these gifts started to ask to be reopened. And the first way they did was in the form of electrical problems. I would be sitting at my computer and it would constantly just shut down, or my stereo would blow out and not work for a certain amount of time if it ever worked again. Or I would walk past lamps and they would flicker, or I'd be driving, and this is where I really noticed it. I would be walking under street lamps or driving past them and they would shut off in succession as I passed. And this was just something that I figured for a really long time was coincidental. I didn't think that I had the power to do these things. I just thought, who am I to cause this? This isn't me. This is just coincidence. Until I was driving with my mother one day and she noticed it. Every lamp we went under shut off. And she's like, hey, did you notice that? From then on, it became a joke because it would happen over and over and over again. So I thought maybe there's something to this. And I didn't know what, but I did know it was getting very expensive because my electronics needed to be replaced fairly often. I was even working in an office where we took the computer in to be looked at and repaired at least 5 times because 2:30, 3 o'clock, when my system started to say, you don't want to sit anymore, please get up and take a walk, go do something else. And I would still continue to work, and that frustration and that energy would build up inside of me, the computer would shut down. To this day, the people I worked with then will still say, hey, remember that computer that used to shut down on you every day? But these were the things that were happening. And I didn't understand that there was any correlation until through a series of events that we'll save for another time. I was led to an ashram to study yoga. And as soon as I got there, something was different. There was an openness to this kind of thing. There was an openness to developing your spiritual gifts. That there was an encouragement to meeting the divine in the way that felt right to you through that communion with the divine. It wasn't just a one-way street. It was a two-way street where you could speak and listen and the divine could speak and listen. And this changed something for me. And when I was practicing my asana at the ashram, one day Swamiji came up to me and she said, I am so sick and tired of changing my light bulbs every time you come to practice here. Could you please go take this class and learn to control your energy? And I looked at the paper she had just handed me, and it was an advertisement for a reiki class with somebody she knew. I didn't know what reiki was at the time. I had no idea, and I knew that this was probably against the religion that I was brought up in, and I felt uncomfortable about that. But I also felt validated in that somebody was seeing the experiences that were happening to me. And not only that, was treating them as normal, right? This was normalized. What was happening to me was not too weird to talk about in a way other than joking. It was a very real thing. And so for the first time, there was something to my life. There was something that made sense. And so I said, okay, I'll take the class. And I went, and I was so nervous because of that indoctrination, because of that uncertainty. This was something I had never experienced before. I never played in the realm of energy, at least consciously. I definitely did subconsciously or unconsciously without knowing it. But this was a whole different thing. And I remember walking in to that class, and the woman teaching the class stared deeply into my eyes. And she said, we know each other. And it was in that moment that I felt fully seen, fully understood. For the first time in my entire life, it was okay to embrace all of me because there was nothing weird here. I was looking at somebody who lived in her gifts, who did not hide them, who embraced them. And in that moment, I remember feeling like I dropped my bathrobe. Like I was just standing there naked for the first time in all of the glory of who I am. And it was so freeing. And the class was phenomenal. Everything in my life changed that day. I walked out of that class. I looked at the trees. I looked all around and I saw color in a way I never had before. Or at least I couldn't remember ever having seen before, because there was an openness in me that was brand new. And after that, people started coming immediately for sessions. People were finding me. I was booked all the time. All I had to do was take the class and really step into more of who I was. From that day forward, I maintain that the shift for us as sensitives, the shift for us as people who are striving to serve the divine, to serve humanity here, is for us to be fully seen, fully heard, and fully understood. Because it is that moment of feeling held and like we can safely be in our entirety that creates that shift and that change in us forevermore. That's the miracle. That's the point, because we have learned in so many different ways that there are ways that we be that are not okay, that are frightening, that don't let us be in crowds, don't let us be with other people. They isolate us. And so when we have that moment of being able to take a deep breath and let all of that fall away and be held in the energy of someone who understands, someone who truly sees us, that shift can take place. It's like we step back into ourselves. We feel more embodied. There's less that we have to hold in. We can finally release that constant pressure. There are so many other pieces to the story, but the idea is, if you have never felt that, know that you're here because I see you. I know what you're going through. I've been there. Our community of beautiful light workers, of true agents of healing on this planet, they know what you're going through. They've been there also. So let us hold you in that. Let us see you in the entirety of who you are and hold you in that vibration until it makes sense to you and you can see it yourself. And then the next piece of that comes with you setting your limits. You understanding that you are ultimately in charge of how much you feel, see, perceive. That is up to you. Universal law states that we have free will, and that when we make a statement, when we make a declaration, the universe has to align because we have stated it. So if you are open to feeling anything and everything, just keep going through your life the way it is. But if you would like to put boundaries on that so that you can feel more free, so that you don't have to be isolated more than you want to be, so that you don't have to be lonely or feel so alone, then it's time for you to consider what your boundaries are. What are you willing to perceive, to feel, to understand, to interpret, and what are you not? In what situations is it okay for you to be as empathetic and as sensitive as possible? And in what situations is it not? You make that declaration. You tell the divine, I am willing to be a servant of the light. I am willing to be love on this planet, and I am in a human body. So I have limitations, and here is what I am agreeing to. In these situations, yes. In these situations, no. Or these are my boundaries around it. And making that declaration, boom, done. It's done. Your angels will align to help you. The divine will absolutely respect your boundaries. It is universal law. Your angels will protect you. If you take nothing away today other than the fact that how much or how little you feel or experience or empathize is completely up to you, that is more than I could have hoped for. And so I thank you so much for being here, for letting me share part of my story, and for being somebody who I know can understand, for being somebody who I know has had a similar experience, and for letting me be part of your evolution, and for letting me see you and be here with you. If you feel that you would like more support on your journey, you can do one of three things with the links in the comments section or the description of this video. You can sign up for a free Archangel Michael meditation, as well as to be on our mailing list. You can check out the membership, where you will receive 28 days of healing energy and angelic transmissions every single month of the year. Or you can be part of our next angel experience, where I'll be delivering messages specific to you from your angels in this live group setting. I hope to be able to support you even more on your journey as you embrace more of who you truly are and you begin to feel more alive in this beautiful world. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you as always for sharing these videos out with those who need. Sending you so much love.